welcome back to Beauty for Ashes. This is episode 9, where we will discuss healing and how easy it is to heal. I know that sounds unheard of, but unbeknownst to me, it is actually very easy to do. So let's get into it. First off, let me share a story with you guys, and let me tell you how long my healing process initially started. So I was dating a guy, and I had known him for maybe a few months, but I had gotten all head over heels about him, and you can convince me that this guy wasn't my person, right? And this was when I moved to Dallas. So yes, run. So I met him, and it was like love at first sight type thing. We clicked automatically. And this was also the start of like the pandemic. So everybody had nothing but time, and I worked from home. And he worked from home. So I was like, oh, match made, right? Wrong. So fast forward, we're like seeing each other, we're talking, we're dating as best as we can during this time. Like it's mostly just being at home, like eating a lot of stuff, like being together as much as possible. And I was head over heels about this guy, like loved him. Remind you, let me put the timeline together. Few months, okay? Few months. This is how quick we can go from 0 to 100, and it hurts, okay? So fast forward, we got to a point where I was about to relocate back to Houston. I was also about to start law school, okay, in the fall semester. So I was like, about to be away anyways, or go back home. My time in Dallas was up. So during this period of time, he was going through so much stuff. Like he had some issues. I won't get into all of the issues that he had. Maybe one day I'll spill all the tea, but I'm just not that person right now. I'm not gonna spill it yet. So he had a lot of stuff going on, and he was honest and upfront about all the stuff he had going on. And little naive me was like, okay, we can work through it. We can do this. Wrong. I remember when I was about to head back to Houston, I was like, well, you do have a lot going on. I don't want to be a distraction to what you already have going on. It seems like it's, taking a toll on you. So I think we should take a break. Why did this man say, I agree? Like basically like, yeah. I was like, what? You're my Shayla. Like I'm thinking like, I thought we were like locked in. Okay, so obviously that we were not on the same page. So fast forward, I was like, okay, so I accepted it. One thing I'm gonna do is accept it. If you say it, that's it. I'm not gonna fight after a no. I'm just not gonna do it. So I get my stuff and I'm back down the dirt road, coming back to Houston, and I'm thinking this man is gonna like call me, reach out, do something. Absolutely not. I heard not from that man ever again until like 2 years later. So I'm like, I was distraught because I thought it was more than what it was. And I thought like, at least, sometimes people reach out, like they'll be like, hey, how are you? Like, is everything okay? Nothing. It's complete silence. It was like being with someone every day and then them ghosting you. I was not prepared for this. Emotionally, I was not prepared. So here I am. I go back to Houston. I held in high heels because this was my first heartbreak. I did not know how to process it. The only other man I felt this way about was probably the guy I was in high school with. Like it was probably him. Like, and that's high school, right? I've had a long time, and it was still a high school sweetheart. But this was different because it was like adulthood. Like this is your first adult situation, and I couldn't fathom it. So he wasn't reaching out to me, and y'all, I have the pride of a lion, okay? I was like, I'm not reaching out to this guy, So this is how I felt about it. And that whole summer, I just kept thinking like, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back. He has to come back. Like, he has to come back. That's not the truth. He never came back. And I pray and pray and pray. I was like, God, bring him back. Like, this was my person and he's gone. He doesn't know this, but you need to bring him back to me. Like, obviously, so I'm completely delusional. But during this time, it's summer and I'm going into fall semester, which is when I'm about to start law school, the height of the pandemic. And I've moved back because my lease was not up in Dallas. So I've actually moved back in with my family, okay? And my family home is going through a renovation, okay? Going through a complete renovation. Not only that, I wrecked my car. So my car was in the shop for 2 months during COVID because they didn't have parts, and it was taking, of course, people weren't coming into work as, often as they should. So it took them a long time to fix my vehicle. It was not total, but it was some damage done. So I'm going through my car being in the shop. They did give me a rental, but it was only for 30 days. I needed one for 60 because that's how long it took them. On top of that, my parents' home is being completely renovated. I'm talking about they're getting new floors in. They're doing the walls. They've moved every room, furniture. They packaged it up under paper. Like, it was to a point where my dad had us go stay at the Post Oak Hotel because our house was chaotic. Everything was going on. They were redoing the kitchen. They were redoing cabinets. They were redoing the top of the shelf. It's discombobulated. Okay, that's happening. On top of this, I am starting law school, and I did not know this until I started, but orientation starts like a month before school. Okay, so it actually starts in July, and it goes on for a month, and I don't know if this was because of COVID or was this just a generic thing, don't know, but ours started in July. So I'm thinking, man, I've lost the love of my life. My car is in the shop. I am displaced from my home and I have to start law school. So we're having orientation like every day. I'm having to order books. I'm having to get on Zoom calls so they can meet, so we can be introduced, because obviously things were remote at this point. So we were online doing a lot of stuff, meeting our professors, we were placed into teams on, I think, GroupMe, so we're like iMessaging, trying to get ourselves together. And on top of this, if that wasn't enough, I'm still working remote. I had no time to heal. I had no time to put every piece of the puzzle together because everything around me was just that chaotic, okay? And the thing that hurt me the most was this emotional heartbreak, because one thing about me, I'm emotional, but I do not show that I'm emotional. So when emotional things happen to me, I do not know how to deal with them, because I'm like, then I have to show it. And that's my issue. So here I am this whole summer. Mind you, my sister she was also coming back and forth with us as well. So we're all in the same home. My grandmother had just relocated from Mississippi, so she's now staying with us as well. We had 2 dogs, Max and Copper too, and all of this, plus my mom and my dad. So it was a lot going on. Now, don't get me wrong, this was a lit time, but also the worst time, because I was heartbroken, and I would still go out and not go out, but I would meet people or have previous people that would talk to me or want to hang out and things like that. And it was still just it's not him. And begging God, please bring this man back. And I'm going to tell you, God said, okay, obviously we're not getting off this bandwagon. So I'll tell you how that ended. But it was so bad during this time because my poor mom, did not know what was going on. My sister did not know what was going on. I'm so emotional that I'm going off on everybody. Of course, if I look back, it was probably high stress situations and being heartbroken, all compacted, and then not having a place to relieve or breathe because it was so intense with everything that was going on externally. So I just didn't have a way to process this properly. So I'm going off, and it got to the point where my mom was like, we need to call in all hands at this point. We're going to call Jesus, of course. That's who the first call is going to be. We need to call your therapist. That's the second call. And the third call is going to be, you're going to call the doctor, because obviously you need medication because something's off here. And she was like, you need to go and see if they can, she was like, you need to call them and see if there's something you can take, because your emotions are just, my mom was like, they're everywhere. I don't know what's going on. I'm going off on the deep end all the time. So I'm like, okay, yeah. Looking back, I'm like, yeah, I was a little erratic. And my sister, the same way, I'm going off on her too. And me and my sister, we don't argue. Our whole life, we've been best friends, and we've maybe had 2 big fights our whole life. My sister's not a back and forth kind of gal. If she thinks she's right, she's mute, okay? She's leaving it at that. And then me, if you're not going back and forth with me, I'm not gonna I'm not saying much back and forth to you either. I'm just gonna leave it dead. So it was like at points where she's like, I just don't want to deal with this girl. Like, this is too much. So it's all going awry at this point. So I guess God got to a point and he was like, you know what? This had gone on now for almost, let's just say 6 to 8 months. Because when all of this started, I had just left Dallas, and let's just say that was around April or May, okay? Because my car happened in May. So let's just say going into the summer, I did not stop feeling this way until like the winter. And I'm talking about late winter, like maybe October, November. And the thing that sparked this was because the guy, I was like, I'm so deeply in love with God, bring him back. A girl came to me as a woman. Remind you, I have not spoken to this guy. He's not called me, reached out or anything. So it's not like he's, I guess, playing both sides or whatnot, because we had not talked. But she was like, I'm coming to you as a woman because I need to know. I've seen your name around his apartment, yada, yada, yada. Because he had a whiteboard. I wrote my name on it. And I guess he never erased it. Or maybe he hid it or something. I don't know what happened. And she was like, I am pregnant with his child. Are you guys a thing? What's going on? And I'm like, girl, no, we are not a thing, actually. Like, no. You know, so that was kind of like the cherry on top, because I was like, that's it. Like, that door is closed. Like, he's moved on. I'm over here broken to pieces, and he's moved on. Not just moved on, he's about to start a whole family. So this is not, you know, this is not what I envisioned. And I'm pretty sure God did this because he was like, you keep praying to me about somebody who's gone. They're already with their next person, and you're holding on to them, and they're gone. And my poor God, I know he's like, man, he was probably just looking down at me, just empathetic, because I was pathetic. So this whole time I'm thinking, okay, again, this happened for a period of time. And this brings me back to healing. I thought that journey was going to be easy. I thought it was going to be like straight to the point, done, finito. No, it was a long process. And I don't think I was fully healed when I got that message from the girl. But at least it closed the chapter. At least it said, okay, now you can stop thinking about this guy and move on. And then I think that's when I really got into, okay, now I have to move on. I have to heal from this. And over that process, I don't know how long it took me, but I got over it because, you know, obviously that happened. And some other things happened too after that. That was just kind of like, I can't believe I ever even had feelings for this guy. Like, couldn't believe it. So I thought healing took this long time. Of course, I started back going to therapy. I did not get on medication. The doctor did recommend some for me, but at this point I was like, let me go to therapy, let me talk to God, and let us go through this natural process first, and then let's see if the emotions are still there. And they simmered down. Of course, the environment also changed after that. The house, my parents' house, was finished. I was able to move back to Houston. I ended up getting my own apartment. My car was obviously out the shop, so a lot of things started, you know, setting themselves back into place. And this journey, again, maybe took me a year or two to fully get over, to fully understand what was going on, to fully like transition. And I just went to therapy last week, and I was telling my therapist, I was like, you know what? There's some things I've always like regurgitated, always thought about. Like I've always said I'm over it or over those situations. And it wasn't this particular relationship. It was just in general. I was like, it's always like these little things that I always think about, and they always sit in the back of my mind, and I think about them, and sometimes I overthink them and get into a mood about them or whatnot. And I was like, I'm tired of that cycle. I'm tired of going back, digging up the grave, or like repeating these cycles of, oh, what happened in the past, and getting upset about them. They're out of mind. They're like out of sight, out of mind. They don't hurt me, or I don't feel a way about them. They just continue to come up. So I'm like, this is traumatizing. You know, I'm like, what's going on? Well, I'm saying I just want to learn how to fully heal. You know, I don't want to do the whole, oh, I say I'm healed and then something happened and then I'm, you know, reliving the past. I want to never think about these things again, you know, and go forward with my life, because it's not affecting my day-to-day life. I just keep rethinking about it. And my therapist was like, well, healing is not actually a long journey. She's like, she was like, it's very simple actually. She was like, it's basically just training yourself to not think about the things that you're thinking about. That was it. She's like, it's basically just training yourself to, as soon as you get into a mode of trying to relive the past or go back in the past, she was like, just stopping yourself from getting there. Basically, she was like, just stop it altogether. Don't let yourself go into those deep thoughts or create those deep analysis. Stop it right in its tracks. And she's like, over time, then you will realize that you no longer think about those things because you're now telling your mind that, no, these are not places I want to go back to. And she was like, oftentimes, she was like, you actually do, you do this daily. You'll say, for instance, if you go to like a fast food restaurant and maybe, you have an encounter with someone that's not so pleasant. And for that moment, it's like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. You've ruined my day. You've ruined the meal, etc., etc. But then a year from now, you're like, what happened? Like, you don't even remember it because it wasn't something that was deep rooted. You forgot about it. You moved on and that was it. You never thought about it again. And that's how healing works. So she was like, it's not this long process that we think and it's long and drawn out. Because I thought the time that it took me to hurt is a time it takes you to heal. Like, if it took me this long to be hurt by something or somebody, maybe it's going to take that time to heal, right? The longer I hurt from something, I feel like the longer it's going to take you to heal from that situation, right? And she's like, no, it's not. She was like, it's just a mindset, and get into a new mindset and creating a new mindset for yourself. And I was like, And I told her, I was like, the funny thing about this is what God has been telling me or God has been showing me, because when I get to these thoughts or I try to go back and relive the past, God always stops me in them. And he's like, don't do this. And actually he was in a process of stopping me in my tracks, but replacing it with something better. He was like, you're thinking about these things and most of the time it's negative. It's not the positive things, it's the negative things. But he's like, stop in your tracks right now and let's replace it with something positive. Let's replace it with the word of God. Let's replace it with the something positive that I've done for you or how I brought you out of that situation. And how that situation is not current, right? It's not something you're going through right now. It's not a right now situation. And this is how we need to move forward. Don't let the enemy continue to come and torment you with these thoughts, because when we continue to dig up the grave and we keep reviewing our past, we are not living in our current future. We're not living in now, we're actually living back then. And the enemy uses that against us because he wants to keep us in a cycle. He wants us to be where I was, or where I'm trying to get from is this place of, I need to keep thinking about it. It needs to keep affecting me. No, it doesn't actually. We need to move on from it. And this is the way that we need to do that, is retraining how you think. And I think I went to a therapist one time, and I think that there's a process that they use in therapy to actually do this, where there's been, if you've had like a very traumatic event happen, they can take you through this process. It's like a hypnosis or similar to a hypnosis, where they actually remove the thought completely. And I'm thinking, well, maybe that's the process we're doing now about healing, is we are removing this negative thought, replacing it with a positive thought, so we can unlearn that past. So again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. Hey, I'm not even a life coach. I am a person who's gonna tell you my story and hopefully it helps you. So that's me. I'm done rambling about my past, but I do want to encourage you to, maybe implement this process and tell me if it works for you too. We're going through this journey together, so I'm not sitting here like, I got it all figured out, like this is gonna work. I'm working the system daily. I'm working this process daily, and it is lots of weights lifted, so I would encourage you to try it yourself. So again, thank you for joining me. Join me again for the next episode. Bye.